Hello, everybody. This is E.J. Schultz, news editor at Ad Age, and welcome to the latest installment of our monthly look at purpose marketing hits and misses. Joining me is our usual guest, Thomas Kolster, who is the founder and creative director at Copenhagen-based Goodvertising agency, which advises companies and organizations on how to turn environmental, societal, and health risks into market opportunities. Welcome, Thomas.
So good to see you back online, EJ.
Yes, I want to thank everyone who joined us in person for our last live episode in Chicago at our Business of Brands event. Maybe we'll do that again next year. But we're back online again for a monthly look. And without further ado, let's get going. We have a lot of interesting stuff today, so I want to get right to it. Our first hit comes from a mental health campaign that's been organized by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Denver agency Cactus. The campaign is called Man Therapy. I believe it's been ongoing for a while, but we're going to look at their latest work, which puts a humorous and very masculine spin on mental health. It features the campaign's protagonist, the fictional Dr. Rich Mahogany. Let's take a look.
According to science, 10 out of 10 men have feelings. But some men find it hard to talk about those feelings. Things like anger, relationships, substance abuse, stress, and more. That's why Man Therapy created a manly mental health assessment that doesn't require words, only bullets. Introducing shootable mental health assessments that put the biggest issues men face right in the crosshairs. Allow me to demonstrate. Bullseyes. If your results look any different from mine or you're just feeling off target, Man Therapy can help. Take the 18-point head inspection at mantherapy.org.
All right, we've seen a lot of work that is, in recent years, obviously trying to normalize mental health care. This one is very interesting and very targeted, obviously, towards men, and it's promoting this assessment test that folks can take on their website, which also includes all kinds of other resources around mental health. I believe they are connected to a network of providers and all kinds of other things. Why do you like this one, Thomas?
I mean, first up, finally we can get all those US guns being put to good use, right? But I think it ticks for those who are watching the show. Often, obviously, it ticks some pretty clear boxes, and the first one for me is they take a creative, novel approach because, as you say, EJ, this is a topic we've covered a lot: mental health, and I think when you go into these sort of well-trodden territories, you really need to take a novel and creative approach. And I think they really do that quite well. And they do that because they really sort of ticks the second box, which is it's just insightful. I mean, it's on, for me, if you look at something like the November movement, where you're November, grow a mustache, it's sort of a similar approach where they talk directly to men. And I think that approach is just extremely effective. I mean, I even got curious when I looked at the way that they got their narrative. And then I think the last ingredient that we quite often talk about, most often when we talk about, for example, diversity and inclusion or climate, is obviously that they don't shy away from using humor. I know mental health is a difficult, challenging topic, and especially in this day and time, but why not still use humor to get people to laugh a little bit about themselves? And I think so. 3 boxes: creative, novel, it's insightful, and humorous. So I love this piece of work. I had to look at it a couple of times, and I'm still laughing each and every time.
Yeah, at first, and you mentioned the gun issue. At first, I thought, is this yet another sort of gun control ad in a weird kind of way? But obviously, it's not. That does sort of get your attention. Kind of wonder what this is all about, right?
Yeah, and especially now also with elections coming up, I think it's an interesting take because I got into that as well, and I'm also one of those men who had feelings. So great that we can talk about that. Yeah, he was right.
All right, moving on. Actually, our next work is also related to mental health, but it comes from a much different angle and approach. It comes from the International OCD Foundation, and it deals with diagnosing OCD in young people. Let's watch the ad, which is called Escape the Loop, and it comes from Ogilvy, Denmark.
OCD has become an entertaining term used to describe orderly people. But OCD isn't a quirky personality trait. It's a serious mental illness. So, how could the International OCD Foundation make people aware of early signs and encourage OCD-prone teens to seek help in time? Well, we hacked their main tool for conversation, repetitive loops, also known as GIFs. And this is Escape the Loop, a campaign that turned the biggest visual hub on the planet into our free media channel. How? We made the first GIFs that actually break their own cycle. When uploading to the platform, the file doesn't have to be in GIF format. It can be an MP4 film. This discovery allowed our loops to play longer than the average frame count GIFs. And while our GIF hacks did show the most common early-stage compulsive behaviors, we let every loop evolve and carry a hidden message. To ensure relevancy, we tagged each GIF with relevant search terms. This let our message appear in thousands of daily searches, along with being shared on multiple platforms by the target audience. On top of this, all loops link to our campaign site to educate you of signs and dangers of OCD, as well as directing you to local helplines. By hacking an online communication tool predominantly used for fun, we were able to nudge teens into recognizing early signs of OCD, helping them escape the loop, one GIF at a time.
I really like the way that this campaign starts in it, because it's so true that the phrase OCD has just been thrown around like crazy, to the point where it's kind of lost its meaning, and they're kind of bringing it back to reality. And I think the campaign is meant, obviously, it's an education awareness play to really describe that this is, of course, a serious issue. Why did you like it, Thomas?
I think they succeeded on quite a few levels. First off, I think it's so targeted people with OCD that they'll feel recognized, they'll see the patterns, and secondly, by taking quite a novel media approach, I think they hit it home, because quite often what I feel with these types of campaigns is that if you don't solve the media piece of it, how are you going to hit those people who might be in need of taking that evaluation of that test? So I think they both succeed on actually creating something that's interesting to look at. And if you sort of have those OCD traits, you definitely feel yourself pulled into that sort of narrative. And secondly, the media approach to it, I think, is quite brilliant. So love it. And just from a sort of creative point of view, I think they nailed it visually as well. It's quite an interesting visual universe. So it's quite a bold campaign, I would say.
Very much. All right, we're going to move along to our last hit. It comes from an organization we featured before on this program, the World Wildlife Foundation. And today we're going to look at how the organization actually puts a little bit of a medical spin on environmentalism in a campaign that is running in the UK. It's called A Prescription for Nature. It comes from Uncommon Creative Studio. Let's watch.
I'm going to write you a prescription, a daily dose of nature, because the UK is facing a mental health crisis. But just 20 minutes in nature a day can help reduce anxiety, ease stress, and help boost our mood. So go get your daily dose and search WWF Prescription for Nature for more ways to let nature restore you.
feel like I could just sort of hang out in that final scene for a little while longer. Very relaxing, right? But I think I would guess this is a very different approach for World Wildlife Foundation. Is that right? I know you've probably seen a lot of their work.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think they're onto something here. And you're right about that sort of feeling that you get from it. I think one exercise I often use when I go to a conference is that to ask people to close their eyes and imagine a place where they feel relaxed, far away from stress. And what comes out of that is often people see themselves somewhere in nature. So it has that healing power. And what I like about this piece of work is that it's difficult for WWF to sort of find a way and to talk about nature preservation and all these things. And I think by hijacking a theme that's very much very much a hype topic right now, mental health, I think to sort of find a way into that bigger theme and putting a value of nature. Why is nature so valuable? So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. And as you say, EJ, wow, like just getting that little mental break from this piece of work, I think it's really well done. And I even love the sort of way that the sound of the birds and chirping of the birds are just getting louder and louder. So I could see this for a while. I would love a screen. I like
the contrast too between the sterile doctor's office, which is a place of usual very high anxiety, and then the way they pan out, and you can kind of feel my heart rate calming down actually.
It's very well done. I mean, it's almost like you would think with 3 pieces of work looking at mental health, you would think it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but that is in fact in May. But it's just kind of to show different ways of actually approaching the same topic in quite a few crazy ways.
It's good to see. It's different ways into the topics, which I love to see for very, very important issues. All right, moving on to our misses. We're actually sticking with Uncommon Creative Studios. So we rewarded them, and now we're going to unfortunately have to connect them to a miss. This is an ad that we're going to watch, or an effort we're going to watch. It's called the Rewear Chair, and the agency was behind this one, and they debuted it at Dutch Design Week. Let's take a watch.
Do you have a laundry chair in your bedroom? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I call it the throwing chair, but yeah, I know the thing you mean. You're talking about the thing where you take your clothes off at night, you throw it on a chair rather than putting them in the wash or whatever.
It's funny how we all have this kind of stigma that might be seen as like dirty or unclean. But more damage happens in the washing machine than when clothes are being worn. And if you get an extra 9 months out of your clothes, so you don't wash them as much, you can reduce the carbon, water and waste footprint by up to 30%. Let's talk about this chair. It's called the Rewear Chair. And they have made a chair. How would I describe it to you? It's sort of like, imagine a normal chair and then give it arms like a spider. And it can hold a week's worth of clothing. So, honestly, it just looks so cool. What's great is extending the life of your clothes. It's the most important thing you can do. And that's what they want to promote with this chair. That's what they want us all to think about. And the Rewear Chair is all about getting us to think about this, about washing less. It makes us all think, oh yeah, okay, it's all right that I'm doing this. Like, the laundry chair is not an embarrassment.
You just pick up the t-shirt from off the chair, you give it a sniff. If it doesn't smell too bad, then away you go. What was it called? Rewear Chair?
The Rewear Chair, yeah.
I mean, come on, that's a great name too, isn't it?
All right, beginning of this really, I think the beginning kind of resonates because it's something we all do, or most of us do, right? We all have that chair where we throw our laundry. But I have a feeling you did not like the pivot to the actual product they're pitching.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talked about insights earlier in this segment, and obviously, like, I felt touched as well when they started talking about that particular chair, because, oh yes, I do have that chair as well. What I don't like about it, yeah, it's a great name for a chair. It ends up being a gimmick. Will people start talking about this? I'm not sure. I think this is just too much advertising, too little impact for me, and it's such a shame because Ecovare, just the fact that they want to talk about using detergent less, I think is quite bold. So there's so many other places you could have taken this piece of work, and a lot of the really important sustainability information that could have been told are not being told. For me, for example, maybe it's the Scandi in me. Today I had white on, but usually I wear black. And even just like for me to keep my pants and not wash them for a long time, 2 to 3 weeks, put them in the freezer, put them out in fresh air, whatever, that would have been sort of really, really useful advice that would have changed behaviors. So it ends up being too much of a gimmick chair on a topic that's so important today, because just by extending that wear of the garment, you keep them looking prettier and you keep the planet prettier. So a really lost opportunity here, which is such a shame.
Not to mention the fact there are plenty of fine drying racks on the market that are much more functional that you fold up and put in a corner and you bring out when you need it. Right?
Yeah. Plus, should I buy the chair or should I get? It's just it just doesn't really add up. Plus, if I wear my clothes for longer, would I really be needing like this? Yeah, there's more questions than answers to this piece of work.
All right, moving along. We've got two more pieces of work to look at. Our next one comes from Repak, which is an Irish environmental nonprofit that is promoting proper recycling behavior with this relatively short ad from the agency Brill Building. All right, obviously those last 3 words, clean, dry, and loose, they're trying to reinforce those are the kinds of things you need to be putting in your recycling bin, not everything. But why didn't this very visual approach work for you?
Yeah, usually I do actually like these sort of visual ways of communicating a quite complicated matter. We've seen it earlier with amount of cars put on top of each other to encourage public transport and other ways of taking complicated subjects and making them simple and visual. So usually I do like it. It just doesn't give me a lot. It's probably the biggest mistake is you're in a country that has been talking about recycling for quite a few years. I don't think it really gives us any new reason for doing so, and so that's the problem. They basically preaching to people who might already be recycling and not really giving us any new arguments for why recycling really matters. You can see this visual stuff adding up, but I don't think it really makes enough of a point of a thing that is so paramount. A bit of a missed opportunity, I would say, unfortunately.
All right, we're going to end with our final piece of work. We're going to look at it comes from a tourism brand called TUI, which is looking to help people avoid jet lag by promoting a special meal program in partnership with HelloFresh. The agency behind this one is the Family Amsterdam.
Jet lag. Almost everyone suffers from it. Not a great way to start your well-deserved holiday. That's why TUI introduces Meals Against Jet Lag.
A jet lag occurs because your biological clock is set to a different time zone.
Together with nutritionist Ellie Kaldenberg and HelloFresh, we developed a special program that reduces your jet lag. A box containing 5 meals with recipes to suit your destination.
When you prepare your trip, you can adjust your biological clock to the new time zone. Your eating times are very important to shift your biological clock. When you shift your meal time several days in advance and allowing your digestion to get used to the new time zone, you can start your holiday without a jet lag.
In this way, we don't just offer travelers the best possible holiday experience, but we also make sure that they get a taste of their destination already at home. Discover more on tui.nl/jetlag.
All right, Thomas, what don't you like about this approach?
Oh gosh, it's a terrible purpose wash. I mean, to begin with, I kind of bought into the premise, and usually when I don't know enough about a topic, what I usually do, and this is something that's good advice for our audience as well, reach out to somebody who knows. So I called a friend. He got an app called Time Shifter where he works seriously with jet lag issues. And food is not very high up on that agenda in terms of how to combat jet lags. I'm often in the airplane as well, so I definitely know myself. What I don't like about this even more so is that if they really wanted to help their travelers, there were so many other things that are more important than food. And so when you actually look closer to the initiative, what they're actually trying to do is to push us some of these fresh meal boxes, which becomes incredibly clear when you click that little link. So I think it's a very badly disguised sales campaign, and I don't think that really serves the TUI brand really, really well. Because if you go down the purpose road, at least seem like you're genuine and you do care. And for somebody who sits in a plane seat way too often, jet lag is quite a serious issue for a lot of people. So I think they miss it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would love to hear how this came together. I mean, obviously, we've been writing a ton about partnerships lately, and there was clearly a partnership here. But I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer to this, was this something where the partnership happened and then they're like, we got to figure out how to promote the partnership? Like there was some connection between TUI and HelloFresh, and then they got in a room and said, what if we did this? Rather than starting with the actual problem you're trying to solve, which you're describing, this may not actually solve a problem.
I think your journalistic questioning there kind of leads us to the answer, right? I thought very much the same. I think the challenge is that if you want to get purpose right, you need to begin with the very foundation of what is it that you want to do? How can you play a meaningful, transformative experience for your customers? How can you help them? How can you make a difference? This one, I'm pretty sure, started a different place. We have to shovel down some food boxes. We have to sell some food boxes. That's what the partnership is about. It's a sales promotion. And then it ended up here using purpose as the driver. And I feel it's a shame, as I said, especially because they are piggybacking on a quite an important topic for travelers out there who might jump on a plane to go to Thailand, right?
Yeah, of course, I want to remind our viewers, we do try to keep an open mind. So if folks have a different perspective of any of this work, or if we're missing something, or maybe you were involved in this and want to set us straight on something, please feel free to share your comments in LinkedIn or anywhere else. You can easily find us both. But we'll leave it on that note, Thomas. This again is E.J. Schultz, news editor at Ad Age. Thanks again to Thomas Kolster, founder and creative director at Copenhagen-based good advertising agency. And as always, thanks to our producer, Lauren Ciardio. We'll be back with you again in November for our next episode of Purpose Hits and Misses. Everyone stay tuned to adage.com for your daily dose of all things related to the marketing industry. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time.